everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today we are kicking off a Rolling Solo showcase here on the channel for Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape from Cool Mini or Not. Just looking at this game on the table brings back great memories of the original Massive Darkness and the showcase I did of that one, where it included an unboxing, a solo setup video, a rules overview, and then a playthrough to help you make an informed decision as to whether or not that iteration was for you. Now here in 2022, we have the second edition of Massive Darkness here in front of us, and I want to do the exact same thing for you. We're going to be focusing on the core box experience for the first portion of this showcase. We're going to start with the very first quest, and inside this video, the sole purpose is just showing you the steps needed to get from A to Z and getting this game to the table set up and ready to play. So without further ado, let's get started. The very first step of setup is to choose your hero. There are 6 heroes that come inside of the base box for Massive Darkness 2, but of course, if you're part of the crowdfunding campaign, you have a whole bunch more to choose from beyond this 6. But if you just have the 6 to choose from, there's still a lot of variation here, as there's different classes. You have the Paladin, the Shaman, the Ranger, the Wizard, the Rogue, and the Berserker to choose from. I threw this back to my Patreon community, and they voted the 2 that most interested them. And in terms of this solo play, I'll be controlling 2 characters, but it's absolutely worth mentioning, if you want to play true solo with just 1 character, you absolutely can. The 2 individuals most voted on by my Patreon community was Sir Ronan and Mathrin. With my characters now chosen for me, I'm going ahead and grabbing 2 dashboards and placing the character cards in the top center. Next, find the miniature that corresponds to the hero that you've chosen. In almost every single case, the pose is going to be an exact match. Once you have the miniatures for the heroes you're controlling, the next thing you'll do is take a look at the colored player bases as well as the pegs and choose a player color for each of them. For Sir Ronan the Paladin, I've chosen green, and for Mathrin the Wizard, I've chosen blue. For each character, find a level token and place it inside of their character dashboard. Next, take the pegs for your hero, and you're going to insert 2 of them, one in each 0 slot of the experience track, and the last peg in the 1 spot on the level track. Once you're done this step, both characters should have the exact same setup in terms of these pegs, but there will be a difference in color, of course. Each player, or each character when playing solo, is going to take a rare treasure token and 3 epic treasure tokens from the box and place them next to their character dashboard. Also ensure that each hero has an activation token with the blue side up to start. The next step's an easy one, as you're looking at the character card and taking a look at the mana in the bottom left-hand corner and the health allotment in the bottom right. You're going to grab that allotment of tokens and just place them next to the character dashboard. So in this case, for Mathrin, he's going to have 6 mana and his health will be at 4. It's worth mentioning those plastic heart tokens are not part of the core box or anything inside of the crowdfunding campaign whatsoever. I just have additionals. These come, I believe, from Arcadia Quest from many moons ago. And as you can see over here for Sir Ronan the Paladin, he has a different allotment, 6 health and 4 mana. Now for every hero that you choose, they're all going to have their specific class. So Mathrin here on the left-hand side is a wizard, so he's going to be casting a lot of spells. You're going to be grabbing his spell amulet and assembling it. It's going to comprise of a ready marker on top. Underneath of that ready marker is going to be a sticker, and you're going to literally have that sticker inside the box. If you misplace it or it doesn't come with it, or, you know, like me, I literally just threw it in the garbage thinking that it wasn't anything at all, then you're going to want to go ahead and just use a drop of super glue, and you'll easily be able to assemble this thing without any issues whatsoever. There's also an axis piece that sits in the very center, which is underneath of this amulet, and then of course the amulet itself around the outside. So have all those pieces together, combine them. If you're looking for instructions on how to do it, look at page 30 of the rulebook. These are all the wizard's skills, and they rank from level 1 all the way up to 3. And when you set up the wizard for the very first time, you're going to be able to choose a level 1 skill from the 5 spread out up top there and slot it into any of the 4 sections of the amulet. It's your choice. So here is a look at the 5 level 1 cards you have to choose from. For me personally, I'm going to go with the Fire Course 1. And at this point, I get to choose which of those 4 quadrants of the amulet I want to place this in. And you've got to remember, it's going to cover up an ability underneath. Now, looking at the amulet at the very beginning, you have something involving attack here, combat, you have a move, and you have a heal. So you're going to want to pick based on how you're strategically building out your character over time. And really, the only way you're going to know how to do that is to play with this class class of character and learn how they flow, operate, and what things you like best. So we're going to go ahead and place, for me, the Fire Course 1 is going to go right here in the bottom section. It's worth mentioning that you can move the marker in terms of where it's pointed. You can see the wand pointing in one of the 4 directions. I have it pointing south right now. You can choose to have it pointed in any direction whatsoever. For me personally, I'm going to have it pointing right at the skill I just gained. Here's a look at all the components for the Paladin. We have a dashboard, which has specific abilities based on auras being placed. You want to take all 3 of the consecration tokens in varying colors and place them across the dashboard, as well as gather up all the skill cards, look at all the level 1 skill cards, and similar to what you did with the wizard, in this case for me, you're going to choose a level 1 skill to start, and once you've chosen it, you're going to place it under one of the 3 auras. In this case, for my Paladin, I've chosen Banish 1, and it's worth mentioning that the Paladin has the ability to flip over one of these skill cards in order to take advantage of the Bless side. However, when starting the game, it begins with the level side face up. The next major decision you have is around the starting item cards. You're going to find these cards easily inside the box by just finding the starting equipment on the back. You'll know that that is the correct items to begin off your adventure, and you've got 8 weapons here to choose from. You get 1 for each of your heroes. You can choose to default to the ones that make the most sense based on the class. So for a wizard, you might default to the wooden staff. And that makes a lot of sense in some cases because, well, doing an attack and generating some mana is going to be really helpful because that mana can help you use that spell amulet more efficiently, right? But at the same time, thinking that there's also benefits to going with the other ones, providing you with different ways to attack, different abilities, and maybe even different dice to roll when you're making those attacks. So think about all the options here and maybe don't always fall into the default rolls. But in this particular case, I'm going to be super boring. And for Master and the Wizard, I'm going to take the wooden staff. And for the Paladin Sir Ronan, I'm going to take the rusty sword, and we're going to take the other 6 and fire them away. Something worth keeping an eye on is this icon here, which is going to let you know whether or not it's a single-handed weapon or a double-handed weapon. You'll see in the tray, if I remove this card here, that the leftmost or left hand also has a double hand icon as well, meaning if you have something like a wooden staff, which does take 2 hands, you'll slot it in here, and that's going to signify with this icon that you cannot use this slot for another weapon while this is equipped. And as the Paladin is wielding his rusty sword with his right hand, he still has the ability, as it's a single hand icon, to use his left hand for something else later on. Something else that comes out of those starting items is a battered leather armor. You're always going to start off in the dungeon with at least this, and if you're playing with 5 to 6 players, or you're controlling 5 to 6 characters in a solo capacity, then you'll notice on the opposite side of this armor, there's actually a stronger version of it, which is highlighted by the 5 or 6 heroes at the very top of the card. Now, the last choice you have to make with your heroes for their starting items is around whether you'd like a health potion or a mana potion. You get to choose one of these for each of the heroes. Now, this might seem like a really obvious choice depending on whether you're weak in one of the 2 categories to start off. So for instance, the wizard doesn't have much health going for him. Might be a good idea to have a health potion in case he takes too much damage. And the paladin isn't all that strong in mana, so that could be a good option for him as well. But to be totally honest, I think in this case, I'm going to go with health potions for both in order to try to stave off any major damage we get, and knowing that I think Sir Ronan, the Paladin, will likely be right in the thick of things, taking damage regardless of how much total health he has at the start. So I'm going to go that route, and we'll see how it pans out. At this point, you're going to place a number of Lightbringer tokens blue side up on the table according to the number of heroes in play. So for me, controlling 2 heroes, that's 1 Lightbringer token. If it was 3 to 4 heroes, it would be 2. And if it was 5 to 6 heroes, it would be 3 Lightbringer tokens. Next, you're going to find all the roaming monster cards. You're going to separate these decks according to the levels, and you can see the levels broken out on the backs of each of the cards. Shuffle them face down without looking and place them nearby. Then you're going to do the exact same thing for the mob cards, splitting them out by the levels, yellow, orange, and red, shuffling them without looking and placing them nearby as well. Next, you're going to want to find all of the treasure decks, separate them out by the backs, green, blue, and purple, common, rare, and epic. Shuffle them up without looking and place them nearby. You'll also want to find all the mob item cards, again separating them out by level, yellow, orange, and red. The final deck of cards you're going to find are the door cards. You're going to shuffle these and place them face down within easy reach. The next step of setup is about placing your miniatures, which is completely up to you. You might place them on the game table itself, leave them in the storage solution inside the box, leave them in the storage solution to the side of the table, however you want to do it that best works for you. As long as they're within easy reach and easy to grab when you need them, that's perfectly fine. For my purposes here in this playthrough, I won't be covering the game table with a bunch of miniatures that aren't currently in play. We'll keep things clean and have them just off to the side. The next step of setup is a big one. Inside of Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape, you need to choose what quest you want to begin on. And of course, if you're choosing a one-shot quest to do, you can pick from any of the quests inside the core rulebook. For the purposes of this showcase, I'm going to be starting off with the very first one called the tutorial. And this only comprises of 2 tiles, keeping things really quick and gets you really up to speed on how the game flows and operates without overburdening you with every single aspect of the game at once. On the left-hand side here, we have 1A for a tile, and on the right-hand side, 4A. Inside the rulebook on page 37, it will show you every single spot on this dungeon layout where you need to place some type of token or item in order to fill out the dungeon. I'm going to do that right now. Based on the tutorial quest setup, I've got all bridges, doors, and other tokens placed where instructed. It's worth mentioning for loot tokens like this one down here in the bottom right, for every loot token in play, you're going to place a number of them depending on how many heroes are in play. So in this case, 1 to 2 heroes that I'm controlling would be 1 loot token, 3 to 4 heroes would be 2 loot tokens, and 5 to 6 would be 3 loot tokens. Now you might be instructed to place traps, chests, fountains, and a number of other things face down on the game board. This one being a quest tutorial doesn't have all those aspects in it, but you're going to see those across all the other quests. Way up there on that bridge, we have a token, which is a spawning portal for roaming monsters, for those interested. Now, when populating the dungeon for any quest, at this point, you're always going to want to check to see whether there's a starting mob. If there is, you're going to be drawing a mob card. You're also going to be assigning it a mob item and placing those miniatures into play. For the tutorial quest, there is no starting mob, but now we're going to bring our heroes into the dungeon. You're going to want to create a reserve of health tokens, mana tokens, fire, frost, and a number of other ones that come inside the base game for Massive Darkness 2. For me personally, I'm using game trays. I find these really handy to keep things organized. Next, we're going to build out the treasure bag to begin our adventure. We're going to take all of the common treasure tokens and all the rare treasure tokens and place them inside the treasure bag and shuffle them up. We're keeping any remaining tokens in a pool close to the playing area as well. The final step of setup is to place the darkness track next to the dungeon with the side with 9 spaces facing up. Yes, this is a double-sided darkness track, and the darkness marker should be on the first space. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up the setup video for the quest tutorial for Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape. I really hope to see you in the next episode as we dig into the rules overview and part number 1 of the play to hopefully help you make an informed decision as to whether or not this is a game for you. Now, it's also worth mentioning I am interested in hearing from the community as to whether or not there's interest beyond this tutorial in seeing the beginning of the campaign mode that comes from Heavenfall, the expansion, as part of the crowdfunding campaign. Now, I know there was interest during my unboxing, and I would love to explore that on the channel, so let me know in the comments below whether that's something you'd like to see, and I will entertain potentially diving into that for you as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next episode. And as always, keep on rolling solo.